welcome to In the Mist. Analia Raven here, and on tonight's video it's going to be a overview of what I learned in Cycle 2 in the Women's Theological Institute. I don't know if you remember my last video about that. It was a long time ago actually, where I did Cycle 1 overview, and so this time I'm going to do Cycle 2 because I know a lot of people watched it, and I'm sure a lot of people are really interested in knowing what I learned in Cycle 2. And even though I'm in Cycle 3 right now, and which I will do videos about in the future, I wanted to kind of do a follow-up on for Cycle 2, just to continue that playlist there, and I will link that into the playlist. And I also try to link my videos for Cycle 1 for Women's Theological Institute. And if you're new to my channel and you're just now, this is your first video that you're watching, feel free to scroll through my whole channel and find out what the Women's Theological Institute is. I'll try to link that video down below in the description bar as well. But if it doesn't end up being there, then definitely check out the rest of my channel. So on tonight's video, I'm going to be going over the type of goddesses I studied, the psychic skills I studied, and the different types of magic and different types of leadership and organization that I had to, because within the Women's Theological Institute we have core classes that we need to take, and then also our electives that we are taking as well. So let's get started. First things first, in the first core class, which is studying about goddesses, you have to pick 10 different goddesses for each cycle. So I talked about my Cycle 1 goddesses, and now that I'm having I had a whole new list for Cycle 2, and I'm not sure if this is going to be in 2 separate videos because this might be a really lengthy video, but yeah. So I wrote all of them down. That's why I'm looking down, because I do have notes here, because it is a lot of information for my Cycle 2 goddesses. And so yeah, I wrote them all down, and oh my gosh, I want to show you guys. I should have put it in my tarot videos, but I didn't. But this is what I got for Christmas from a really close friend. It's a tarot journal, only I'm not using it for tarot. I'm just using it for things like philosophy club and writing down like ideas about other things. So anyway, so Cycle 2 goddesses, I picked Hathor, Annis, like white Annis or black Annis, Sky Woman, which was an Iroquois creator goddess, Anuket, which is the mistress of Nubia and lady of the Nile in Egypt, also known as the nourisher of the fields, Yemaya, mother of all living things, rules over all waters on earth, nurturing, fruitful, and protective. And Yemaya also has other attributes as well, but since this is an overview and I have a lot of information to cover, I'm not going to be going into depth with that. I do have a blog post about Yemaya on my blog In the Mist by analia.wordpress.com or something like that. It's on my channel somewhere, but I don't really write on the blog very much because I'm still working on my website and getting that up and running, and my blog will be transferred over to my website. But anyway, and Lilitu, which is giving rise to Lilith. She's like an older version, if I'm understanding that correctly. She was an older version to Lilith. She's known as a vampire goddess. Beauty, seduction, life, death, and the night. That's what Lilitu kind of governs over. Psyche, meaning soul, butterfly, authentic personal growth, and sorry about that, I don't know what that was about. Transformation and faith. If anyone's heard of the stories Cupid and Psyche, she goes on this journey to get her, because she has faith in her love, to get her love back, because in the story she betrayed him and looked when she wasn't supposed to. And then also Diana, goddess of the hunt, animals, protector, goddess of the waxing moon, and Brigid, goddess of the forge, healing, poetry, and prophecy. And then the last one that I studied, which there wasn't a lot of information about this particular goddess. Her name is Mitekatsuatl. She's Aztec, and she's goddess of death. And that was all of the 10 goddesses that I studied in Cycle 2, and I just gave a brief description about them, except for Hathor. And Hathor is joy, love, and fertility. She's the cow goddess of Egypt. And then Anis, whether it's white Anis, which is the winter queen, the silence, who brings presence of the abyss, or black Anis, which is the goddess of death, forbidden knowledge, and mysteries and magic. So there's two wrapped up into one there. And so that's for Cycle 2 goddesses. And I have more in-depth information. Those are just little snippets of the goddesses just for you guys to understand, to get like a little view of what I was working with. So it was very like mishmash, not from just one pantheon or anything. So, because I want to be well-rounded when studying 10 goddesses in each cycle, because I don't want to just study one pantheon, and I just want to know different aspects of different goddesses. And also it's good for comparing and contrasting, at least I thought it was in Cycle 2. With psychic skills, in the Cycle 2, one of the classes is psychic skills, I emphasized my psychic vampirism. I don't know if you've seen my introduction videos or anything. I mentioned that I was a psychic vampire, which is somebody who can feed off of other people's energy, and they cycle it through. I'll have to do a video on that. And they cycle it through to help themselves and fill in the gaps that they are missing, and I was trying to hone those abilities, which I'm still new at it, but I'm getting there. So I'm not just taking from random people without permission or anything, because that's a big thing in the psychic vampire community, is that you need permission. And there's a whole subculture within the vampire subculture, which I will have to do a video on that. And then I was supposed to do experiments as a requirement to work with my psychic ability, and I did experiments. They were all consensual experiments, taking people's negative emotions, the energy off of those negative people's or not negative people, but negative feelings that people were having, like negative energy. I was taking that and seeing if they felt a difference or felt anything at all or didn't feel anything. And then I was also wanting to answer the question, am I getting confused with being an empath, or am I a psychic vampire? Because those can get confusing. An empath would be somebody that could get overwhelmed with people's energy, and they may feel very like down and depressed some of the time if they don't know how to control their empathic ability. But that's when you're just feeling other people's emotions. That's not the same as being a psychic vampire, which is taking energy and cycling it through your own energy to fill in what needs to be filled in. So I did answer that question, and I found that yes, I am a psychic vampire, and then went from there. And I'm still working on that in Cycle 3. And then in the magic class, I studied old world magic. I worked with circle and tools. I focused more on witchcraft than Wicca, and I focused more on energy work. Mainly because vampirism, they do a lot of energy work. So I focused on that, and yeah, that's pretty much it, is witchcraft, because I'm very eclectic and I'm very hedge witchy, in the sense that I like to commune with the spirits and go into different realms like a hedge witch does. They call it riding the hedge. But I also like doing other forms of witchcraft that doesn't involve hedge witchcraft. And then for the next class that's required for the Women's Theological Institute, it's administration, organization, and leadership. And then in Cycle 2, I was working on creating an RCG group and moon study, because I haven't really done much of moon study. And I did create my RCG group, and I'm still working on moon studies and how I feel with the moon. But within the cycle 2, I did SBATs and wanted to know if I would like doing SBATs, even though I have been practicing for 10 years prior joining WTI. I haven't really worked with the moon energies like that, like in the SBATs way. And then because it is a all women's spirituality from many different paths, feminism is required in WTI. So I worked on what my philosophy on feminism and spirituality is, and I created a blog post / video about that. I don't think I created the video, but I definitely created a blog post, which is on my WordPress blog. So if you want to check that out, then it's my In the Mist by Analia at WordPress blog. I will try to link that down below. I know it's on, like the link is on my channel somewhere, I just don't know where. And so I'll try to link that blog post down below. I did a lot of different essays about women and feminism. I did one, like the women of Vermeer. Vermeer is an artist. I wanted to explore the women of Vermeer more in depth and why he painted them and what they symbolize within that time period. And I also did feminism, like spirituality, I can't remember, and women and religion, something like that, within another essay I did for my college essay. And that was really a beautiful essay. I really was proud of that. And I did get an A on that essay. I got A's on both of them, but that one was the one I was proud of. And then another required course is environment, and I was supposed to, and this was when I moved to southern Indiana, because I was living in Indianapolis, and southern Indiana has a different environment. So I redid my ecosystem and my place and environment, and then I wanted to kind of focus on my health issues, such as like food and where the food comes from, and where my water comes from, and everything of that sort of, and everything like that. So very practical things that I think everybody would find interesting learning is, you know, food and water, how it affects your health, where it's coming from, and what's your place in your ecosystem, like what's your footprint. And so I did focus on that and answer those questions. And I also wanted to focus on, within environment, is creating a garden. Unfortunately, in my new location in southern Indiana, we don't have like a water hose. So when we did try to create a garden our first year of living here, we had to run back and forth inside the house and with a pail, like a watering pail, and fill it up all the time, and because we didn't have an outside garden hose spigot, I guess, I don't know. And so we couldn't attach a hose to it to run a sprinkler system every now and then. And vegetables and stuff like tomatoes require a lot of water, and with people working and not watering them, you don't get tomatoes that way. Anyway, and so the next required course was counseling and support, and it basically was asking the question, do you need counseling, do you need support, what do you need versus when it comes to your mental health. And I decided that I didn't need counseling, that I was going to focus on shadow work instead. And shadow work is going through those emotions, like setting time for yourself to go through what you need to deal with, whether that be negative or whatever you're denying about yourself, and working through that step by step using different processes. And then that leads into the next course is personal growth. And so that was all about working on my RCG circle and my priestess training and all the goals I wanted to stay forth, and noticing where my strengths lie and where my weaknesses lie within those. And then also shadow work, because shadow work, I believe, does give you personal growth and does help you grow as a person and learn. And then I did these are these are electives now. And then so creative studies or creative activities, I did an in-depth study on one creative activity, which was book alterations and or painting. And so I made a chaos journal, which I can't show you right now, and it's alterated and it looks all chaotic and it has like discord on it. And it was out of the Anne Rice book, Violin, if any of you heard of that book. I chose that book because it was relatively dark and relatively a boring read in my opinion, but I think I'm going to give it another go. But anyway, and so I created an altered book out of that, and I did some paintings, which I think I showed you in one of my 2018 alphabet challenges. Like, I think it was the first one, which was art. And I think I showed you some of those paintings that I did. And then, so you were supposed to produce 3 bodies of art, and so I did. I had pictures of them, and I showed them to my advisor and everything. And then comparative religions is the next one, which is learning the beliefs of other religions. And I chose to learn about, Christianity, well, more so about Christianity. And I went to different churches to figure that out. And I went to different ceremonies, Christian ceremonies and Catholic ceremonies. And I also went to Thelema, I don't know, not Thelema, but like Wiccan sort of gatherings, and I went to Druid gatherings like ADF, Druid gatherings. And then what else did I go to? I did go to a Hindu temple as well. So, and I think those pictures are on my Instagram, and Nally Raven Instagram. And then another course I wanted to take, elective, was teaching, and I had to teach at least 2 classes a year for at least 6 people. And I taught, one lesson was about Psyche at a goddess gathering in 2016, and then the other lesson was on Black Mirror scrying at a Wisconsin Hallows gathering in 2016. And then I did teach other classes, which was what was it? I can't remember. It's been so long ago. And then I learned about matriarchal culture, which is another elective. I picked one matriarchal culture and studied it. I did the Iroquois culture. It turns out that they were matriarchal, Iroquois Indian, because I'm like a tiny microscopic part of Iroquois. You can't tell, but yep, I'm part Iroquois somewhere in my lineage, according to my grandmother. And so I wanted to know, I didn't learn any of the language, but I know, because I can't really pronounce, and I'm not really good at learning languages, but you're supposed to like at least read up on their language and their traditions and their religion or spirituality. And so that's why I chose the Sky Woman, because that was an Iroquois spirit or goddess that was very important, which created what we know of the world today, or at least started the creation. And then the next course is cosmology, theology, and I was supposed to develop a working cosmology / theology and what my beliefs are and how I perceive the universe. And my beliefs in that regard, I am monopolytheistic, meaning I believe in one all-encompassing being, but the other beings, like the other gods and goddesses, are aspects of that energy or universal energy, if that makes any sort of sense at all. It makes sense to me. So there is one all-encompassing universal energy, and the other ones are like aspects of it, and that's how they are. I view them. I'm not saying they're not real. I'm not saying that they don't have like their own personal aspects as well. I'm just saying that they are aspects of the all-encompassing universal energy. And then I was supposed to study in divination. I studied 2 forms of divination. I studied tarot and Black Mirror scrying, and I like them both. I am working with tarot more so now, and I did the Four Queens workshop. I don't know if you watched she used to be called the Four Queens, but I think she's now called Kellyanne Maddox, her YouTube channel. I followed her along with her tarot reading, or with her tarot classes, and then I kept a tarot journal, and I made my own tarot spells, and did readings for people, like practice readings on myself and then for people. And I do have a tarot workbook that I worked with. And for Black Mirror scrying, I kind of felt my way. I did research on where it came from and the history, but I did feel my way through scrying intuitively, more than I did with like the tarot. Because tarot, there's a lot of information about tarot and a lot of different ways to do it. And with scrying, it's kind of like you kind of gaze into this reflective surface and you go with it. So I just had to do that with like intuitive thinking. And then for communications, I had to prepare 4 speeches, and I included my my classes I taught, so the Black Mirror scrying and my Psyche class, and my YouTube channel was part of my 4 speeches for people to watch and judge me on or criticize me on, whatever. Yeah, that was part of that, and so that's how I passed communications. And then ritual liturgy, I prepared, you have to prepare at least 2 ceremonies or rituals for a big group of people, and so I included the Psyche ritual at the Goddess Retreat that I prepared, and also the Hathor Segment ritual that I prepared for my WTI group and other people. That was also, I did the Hathor Segment at the Goddess Retreat, which was in front of like 30 or 40 women, and then I did it in front of my WTI group, which was in front of like 12, I think, 12 or 10 or 12, 10 to 12 women, and that was, and then I had to record and analyze my strengths and weaknesses of those ceremonies, and they also had a paper that they filled out and say, what do I need to improve on? What did you like about this? What you didn't like about it? Oh, hello, cat. Micah wanted to say hi. Anyway, no, you can't get up there. Okay, you guys, sorry. And then the music for last but not least, not the elective that I chose, was music, drama, dance, and so I had to integrate my goddess work and what I learned into a creative work. So what I did with that was I had to develop a dance symbolizing the goddesses I chose, and research goddess music and what represented goddess music. And then for the last, this is also a core class, which is integrative activities. I had to find at least 5 categories of my studies, like all of my classes, and put them together into one work of art. And I can't really remember what I did with that. I think it was my YouTube channel. Yeah, it was my YouTube channel, because it integrated like all creative activities, integrated speech, integrated teaching, and support and personal growth, stuff like that. At least I think my YouTube channel integrates all that stuff. But what do you think? And so that was my cycle 2, and that lasted 2 whole years. Cycle 1 lasted 1 year, and cycle 2 lasted 2 years. And now I'm in cycle 3, and cycle 3 has been interesting so far, I have to say. It's kind of been a roller coaster. I'm bouncing from one end to the other. I'm working with my RCG group in Southern Indiana and organizing that. So it's been more hands-on, and I will try to do updates and videos as I go in cycle 3 than having an overview, because I think it's much more fascinating to follow that along with the person rather than having an overview of the whole 2 years of my life just in one short video. Even though this video probably hasn't been long, and I know I'm rambling, and I know my last video was a talkie video too as well, and so were a few others, but I do have plans to do like an in-bulk video on how to make certain things like cleansers, and because in-bulk is all about keeping things clean and spring cleaning and getting out with the old and in with the new. So I will be doing a video about in bulk next time. And also I have other announcements that I'm going to be having to do another talkie video and about certain things, like I'm wanting to work on a book as my integrated activities for cycle 3 and other things like that, and I do have videos in line for you guys. So on that note, this is the end of cycle 2 overview, and I hope you all enjoyed it, and thank you for following along on my path, and have a wonderful night or day, whichever one you're watching this in, and many blessings. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. In the Mist, Analia Raven.